Terry Ehret is one of the founders of 16 Rivers Press. Terry has published 4 collections of poetry, most recently Night Sky Journey from Kelly's Cove Press. Her literary awards include the National Poetry Series, the California Book Award, the Pablo Neruda Poetry Prize, a nomination for the Northern California Book Reviewers Award, and 5 Pushcart Prize nominations. From 2004 to 2006, Terry served as Poet Laureate of Sonoma County, where she lives and teaches writing. And I think many of you who I see in the Zoom room have I've met through Terry's classes, and I look forward to more of those in the future. Please welcome Terry Ehret.
Well, thank you, Sandy. I'm so glad to be here, and I feel so privileged and honored that I'm one of your featured readers for National Poetry Month. So thank you for that. And I also want to thank Rivertown Poets and Sandy for including my colleagues Elliot Shane and Patrick Cahill in the April lineup. Their books were published along with my translation a year ago. And then, of course, because of the pandemic, most of our book launches were curtailed. So makes me especially happy to be able to celebrate with all of you virtually. And finally, the pleasure of reading with Phyllis Klein. I am only a little familiar with her work, so this evening was a special treat. I loved the Ellen Bass poem that you began with, and I was particularly intrigued by your use of the term faux translation. I think it must be something like what I call mistranslations or homophonic translations. There are many approaches to it. And one of the poems I'll be reading tonight is sort of in that genre. Because of the pandemic, we've certainly seen a curtailing of in-person readings and book events, but it's also kept many of us from traveling. So some of you who are tuning in this evening have been on one or more of my travel writing trips. And these trips include Ireland, Wales, and Tuscany. And so I thought I'd begin this evening by reading a few poems of travel. And the first one is called Twilight. And I've never read it before. In fact, it's lived in my journal until this afternoon when I typed it up for the first time. It was written in June 2011 in Ballyvaughan, Ireland. And I'm going to put an image up behind me to accompany this poem. Let me see if I can make that happen. Okay. And I'm hoping you can see that. Right, so that hillside you see that's tinted almost red is actually gray, like the stones in the foreground, but the sunset had the effect of painting it this other color, which is described in this poem, Twilight. When we turn off the road from the village and onto the lane toward home, the gray limestone of the Burren lights up in crimson and amber of the sun setting behind us. And all the lane long, the colors of the sky deepen, fingering out across the clouds and the waters of Galway Bay, painting the stone deeper, lovelier. At the end of the lane, the trunks of trees glow like embers, and the windows of the stone houses, and the stones of the houses themselves, even the white cows grazing in the field below the houses, are bathed in liquid garnet. We walk between hawthorn and stone bramble, turning now toward the fiery rock, now toward the fiery sky, unable to believe such beauty given to us like grace, and that beauty growing richer, filling every sense and thought till we are struck mute, made simple by the light. Okay, just want to get rid of the virtual background, which can be sometimes a distraction. The second travel poem was also a mistranslation or faux translation, I guess. We were reading some of the poems of Anthony Raftery, an Irish poet, famously a blind poet. And so I called this writing exercise The Blind Leading the Blind. So we were working with his writing in Irish and Gaelic without much sense of what those words meant, but the sense of the music of it. So this poem came from that exercise, and it's called it The Church of the Wind. The ear is a boat baptized by rain. It hears the music of what isn't there. I wait to sleep until I am without sin. In the late hours, I can feel the new day coming like a bride, like the cool white moon in its shining boat, rocking toward my shore. Oh, choir me. I want to sing more, and there is no choir in me. The sea says, go, but I am silent, a false and empty shell. I go where the sea tells me, beside the old church walls. Here the bees teach me their sweet honey drone, 1,000 tiny winged gods. Go, says the mare to her leggy racing colt. Go, my little one, to the churchyard field. But I am befogged like the long coast mist. There is no shine like the great cliffs of Morar. And the next poem is in 3 parts, and I was certainly writing under the spell of the Welsh language, but this was during a travel writing trip to Wales. And we were focusing on the poetry of Gerard Manley Hopkins and of Dylan Thomas, of course, and with a lot of the mythology of Wales. This is called, well, it doesn't really have a title yet because I just pulled this out of my journal, my travel journal this afternoon. But for now, I am calling it Lead with Your Heart. 1. Some mornings, the world lies open with spring leadings, rich with couple-colored hills and racing clouds. Some days, the heart lies open too, ready for joy, a river descending the blue slopes of heaven. Some days it is hard work, this making of noise, and it has only just begun. Sweetness or sadness, depends on what you believe. The winding stair, its spiral commands. Pull everything out of your sky. Nature is a maze, a shallow pool, a mirror of shifting glass. This fatal fear, this mortal tug. 2. A doe shines in the darkness. Follow her now between evening and night. Dark, beautiful. Oh, become lost here. Let the gloaming embrace you. Let it call you to life. Stars bloom in the night trellis. You can hear their soft ringing and chiming. There are 2 paths, dark and bright, each a kingdom haunted with spirits. 3. Don't be afraid of the valley of time. Your first knowing was a turning like this. Time which chooses to bloom from within you, let it make you laugh. You can hear from within the terrible scythe swinging back and forth, shadow and light. What lies underneath is far away and dear. One year at the sitting room, the writers who gathered there in the workshop I was leading, we all read the work of Robinson Jeffers. And then in the spring, we took a field trip. It wasn't quite like traveling to Wales or Ireland or Tuscany, but down to the Big Sur coast and to Robinson Jeffers' wonderful tour house. And this was a poem that came out of reading Robinson Jeffers, and especially one poem about the rain women. Rain women after Robinson Jeffers. I saw them once off the coast below Monterey. The rain women walking across the sky in a slow procession, each carrying the low and heavy sky, each carrying an urn of air and ash. I saw them again in the canyon lands of southern Utah, miles out over the New Mexico desert, the sky a black hand of approaching storm, the air between them singed with blue light, their long gray dresses bending, shifting, disappearing, reforming high above the Galante. The walking rain, someone called them, carrying on their heads dark and weighted sky, carrying in their arms the memory of their dead, the ashes of what wants to be born. A year ago, during last March and April, I wrote 19 haiku-like poems, one for each of the first 19 days of sheltering in place. I didn't know it was going to go on for a year. And I gave myself an assignment, a somewhat playful assignment, to work with Wallace Stevens' poem, 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. Like Phyllis, responding to the news and images of the pandemic. I've read bits and pieces of this, I think, at Rivertown's open mic in the past year, but I haven't had a chance to read the poem in its entirety, except to a few friends in my writing group. So here it is. It's called 19 days of looking at a corvid, with apologies to Wallace Stevens and to blackbirds, which are not corvids, and to corvids, which are not viral. 1. Among snowy Sierra peaks, the only moving thing was a crow in the hemlock. 2. I was of two minds, to zoom or not to zoom. Screen blank, like a branch empty of corvids. 3. One crow whirls in the March wind. Two walkers on the path below, 6 feet apart. 4. A man and a woman are alone. A man and a woman and a corvid are alone. 5. I do not know which to prefer, contagion or annihilation. The red-billed chough in the hawthorn or the hillside stripped of brush. 6. Frost glazes the deck railing with morning dread. The corvid's shadow crosses the window back and forth, the mood of the world on edge for good reason. 7. Oh, orange man of Washington, why do you imagine Easter blessings? Do you not see the fear of the corvid darkens the smiles of the men behind you? 8. I know the noble raven strutting on London's tower wall, but I know too that the corvid raps at the minister's chamber door. 9. When the cruise ship came into port, it marked one edge of the corvid's widening circle. 10. At the sight of hooded crows gathering in the empty piazza, even the quarantined come to their balconies to sing. 11. Squawking Jay struts to the podium like an emperor to his throne. Once a fear pierced him in that he mistook the shadow of his ego for a murder of crows. 12. The curve begins to climb. The corvids must be flying. 13. It was the same day for weeks. It was raining, and it was going to rain. The corvid watched from the sycamore limbs. 14. The corvid flies from Montgomery. We are all waiting for someone to say hello in there. Hello. Sorry about that. I didn't turn my phone off as I should have. I'll do that one again. The corvid flies from Montgomery. We are all waiting for someone to say hello in there. Hello. 15. In northern India, white peaks, the Himalayas visible again. The corvid's wings span the full moon. 16. Unseen beyond the broken wall, a crow cries softly like a child frightened by a dream. 17. The order comes, walkers wearing masks. The corvids number 120,000. 18. Twilight howls through the April hills. The crow flaps into a moonless echo. 19. Beyond the last thought, at the edge of the mountain, the corvid nests inside you, under your skin, feathers shining. 1 for sorrow, 2 for mirth, 3 for a funeral, 4 for a birth. Thank you.